Welcome to the Themidnightburn. There's been a new interview that sparked the JonBenet Ramsey case back to life. At the conclusion of this video, comment and let me know your theory. Here's the irony. The very person who's reignited one of America's most notorious unsolved crimes is the same man I believe committed it. The overwhelming evidence I'm about to share supports this belief, and I'm not alone. By the end of this video, you'll see why. Picture this. Detective Linda Arndt walked into what she thought was a kidnapping. What she witnessed instead would haunt her forever. Picture John Ramsey that morning, casually sitting down, reading his newspaper like it's any other Tuesday, acting cordial while his daughter is supposedly in the hands of killers. He keeps telling Arndt they've searched every room of the house numerous times. But here's where it gets chilling. The ransom note demanded the money by 10 a.m. By 1 p.m., dead silence. No calls, no contact. When Arndt finally ordered another search at 1 p.m., John Ramsey didn't hesitate, didn't wander. He went straight downstairs to a basement room so hidden that even their maid of 6 months didn't know it existed. And then he emerges, carrying his daughter's lifeless body. In that moment, Detective Arndt made a mental count of her bullets. She knew who the killer was.
And I see John Ramsey carrying JonBenet up the last 3 steps from the basement. And my mind exploded. And everything that I had noted that morning that stuck out instantly made sense. I knelt next to her and I leaned down to her face. And John leaned down opposite me. And his face was just inches from mine. And we had a nonverbal exchange that I will never forget. And he asked if she was dead. And I said, yes, she's dead. And I told him to go back to the room and to dial 911. And as we looked at each other, I remember, and I wore a shoulder holster, tucking my gun right next to me and consciously counting, I've got 18 bullets.
Why did you do that?
Because I didn't know if we'd all be alive when people showed up.
Dr. Cyril Wecht didn't get his reputation by playing nice. With over 17,000 autopsies under his belt and decades as a medical examiner, he calls it like he sees it. His findings? The injuries were consistent with digital penetration, not penile. His theory cuts deep. Patsy Ramsey wasn't sexually active during her battle with ovarian cancer. So, who became John's surrogate? Wecht believes during one of these acts the garrote was pulled too tight for too long. That's what killed her.
Me, who killed JonBenet Ramsey? This was not a murder. This was, well, technically it would be manslaughter, whatever, but it wasn't designed to be a murder. It was an accidental death that occurred during sexual play by the father. There was no intruder. No intruder. When you see me next and I have hair down to my waistline, like some of the NFL football players do, that's when the intruder will be found. Now, this is a game. Patsy Ramsey, the mother, is out of the sex business. Stage 4 ovarian cancer. She followed surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, and the little girl was the surrogate. And the father, penile penetration, not penile penetration, I mean non-penile penetration, finger penetration, digital penetration. It's all there in the autopsy. Chronic inflammation, focal erosion, the vaginal vault, the 7 o'clock position, birefringent material, the most common source of which in any household is talcum powder. Put it all together. And by the way, he knew about the room in the basement. The homicide detectives getting there at 6 o'clock in the morning never even knew that room existed.
Yeah.
Looking for the 6-year-old girl, never even knew that room was there. A maid who worked there for 6 months never knew about that room. But this outside intruder who was able to get in without awakening anybody, he knew about that room where he took the little girl, right, and he had his way.
The skull wound? That came after death, staging to make it look like an intruder's work. Let's talk about that ransom note. It demanded exactly $118,000. The exact amount of John Ramsey's Christmas bonus. What are the odds? But here's the kicker. There's a balled-up piece of paper on the floor where the killer made a mistake on their first attempt. And get this. One sentence was written with the right hand, but the entire note was crafted with the left. Someone was trying very hard to disguise their handwriting. Patsy Ramsey, still wearing the same dress from the Christmas party the night before. Not exactly the behavior of someone who went to bed and woke up to find a ransom note. Even today, John Ramsey himself admits police refused to test crucial evidence with modern DNA technology. The garrote that strangled his daughter, the ransom note and that crumpled practice run, a suitcase linked to the supposed intruder's escape, the flashlight from the kitchen, rope found in Burke's room. Why would police refuse to test evidence that could solve the case? Unless they already know what they'd find. Recently, Ramsey's been pushing a new narrative that a professional hitman named David Cooper confessed to him over the phone. Cooper allegedly knew about a red model airplane on John's desk. But here's what doesn't add up. If a professional killer contacted you confessing to your daughter's murder, wouldn't you move heaven and earth to bring him in? Instead, when police told Ramsey to handle it himself, he didn't. 28 years later, a father continues to point fingers everywhere but where the evidence leads. Detective Arndt knew in that basement moment. Dr. Wecht's forensics paint a disturbing picture, and the evidence sits untested, locked away from the truth. Sometimes the monster isn't hiding under the bed or lurking in the shadows. Sometimes the monster lives in the house. The dice have been cast in this case long ago, but justice, that's still rolling. Until next time, catch the dice. They rolling.